Greetings, Cyberdogs and citizens of the interwebs. This is ReNDoG coming at you in another episode of Minecraft Survival from the Hermitcraft server. Hope you guys are having a great day today, baby. Oh man, it is nice and early in the morning. I got myself a cup of coffee and I'm in the mood to place down some freaking blocks up in here, man. Jeez. It has been a pretty grindy week for the ReNDoG, guys. I'm sorry there hasn't been a Hermitcraft episode in a few days, and basically that's because I've been making a huge wall. I have been spending the last few days constructing the foundations for a giant wall of awesomeness that is going to be surrounding this elven kingdom that we got started on in the previous episode. And to be honest with you, man, it's been a pretty grindy affair. There hasn't been anything really interesting to show you guys. I've just been mining out cobblestone, smelting it at the Auto-smelter, and then turning all that stone into bricks so that I can make this wall. So I've just spending, a few hours on the Hermitcraft server every day this week, just building up this wall and getting it to a point where we can actually start calling this place a city. Now today, my friends, we are going to be working on the entrance into the Elven City. This is going to be the main gate into the city, and I want to try and figure out a nice design for that gate today. And I'm also working on the roads over here. You guys can see that I've already sort of laid out some foundations for the roads, and I'm just laying down some of these stone bricks, or sorry, some of the smooth stone over here, just to represent where the roads are going to flow. I want to fill in all of these roads, of course, probably with smooth stone. I originally was going to fill it in with stone bricks, but roads aren't made out of bricks, right? They're kind of made out of concrete and stuff. I'm still trying to work out exactly how we're going to be making the roads for the elves. But anyway, we got lots of stuff to do today. Roads to build, gates to make. But before we get to any of that jazz, let me show you what I have been up to over the last couple days, guys. Look at this wall. Isn't it looking awesome? I mean, it's literally just made out of stone bricks right now. There's absolutely no block variation whatsoever. But what I wanted to do was create the foundations for the wall so that I know what I'm working with, and over time we can start beautifying this section of wall over here. And what I've done is I've got these sort of turrets every now and then as the wall progresses around the kingdom. And yeah, I think they're going to be so cool. At the moment they're looking pretty janky, I'm not going to lie, but I got some really cool plans for these turrets. I kind of want to make them look like these towers over here, right? And I think that's going to look absolutely glorious. But yeah, I really love how natural this wall looks. I like how it follows the contours of the terrain, how it's not straight, how it goes up and down, how it turns, how it curves, goes left and right. I think it's pretty sweet, man. And I still need to finish off the wall section that runs all the way behind here. Well, I need to add some turrets back here. But for now, I've finished adding the turrets to the circumference of this section of the kingdom. And how cool does it look from here already? Oh, man, it looks so sweet. I'm getting so much inspiration on this project, guys. It's going to look so amazing when we get it done. But yeah, we got lots of work to do, lots of turrets to make. We still got to make the frickin' river, and we're going to start working on a design for this gate over here. First thing that I want to do with you guys today is get the general layout of the roads down. I've literally dug all the roads out by one block, basically. And what I'm trying to do now is sort of lay down some of these smooth stones just to sort of show me where the roads exactly are going to be traveling, so to speak. These blue markers are helping me know where the roads are, but I want to make the roads look a little bit more real, a little bit more visceral, I suppose, so that we know exactly where they're going to be going. And by the way, if you have just joined us here, welcome to the ReNDoG channel. I'm very angry because you clearly haven't watched the previous episode. If you don't know what's going on over here, oh, you're making me so angry, I'm going to freaking elytra into the ground. But anyway, welcome. I'm happy to have you. We are making a huge elven kingdom. It's going to be a massive city of elves, and it's going to be fantastic. We've been working over the last few episodes to create an auto-smelter facility so that we can generate all of the resources that we need for this massive build. Oh, and by the way, guys, thank you for all of the amazing comments on the previous episode. I can see there's a lot of you guys that have been inspired by this build, and that is awesome. By the way, I just want to respond to a question that quite a few of you guys have been asking me about the Auto-smelter back at the Netherboard. A lot of you guys have been saying, ReNDoG, why don't you just use a Silk Touch pickaxe to get all of this smooth stone? Well, that is a good idea. The problem with using a Silk Touch pickaxe in a speed mine, for example, is that the durability of that Silk Touch pickaxe kind of gets destroyed pretty quickly over time, especially if you're grinding for hours on end. And I think it's actually more efficient to use a normal pickaxe like Terra over here to collect the cobblestone at haste 5 with the beacon so that you can insta-mine it, and then to smelt down, you know, the hundreds of blocks that you collect in an automatic smelter like we have. I think it's a little bit more efficient that way than to use a Silk Touch pickaxe that you then have to go and repair, because remember, Silk Touch pickaxe is also going to be breaking redstone blocks and coal blocks and stuff like that, so you're not getting XP from those blocks to automatically repair that Silk Touch pickaxe while you are mining. Also, the Doom Smelter is freaking awesome, and I kind of want to use it, man. I just love sitting there watching all that cobblestone being smelted into smooth stone, and guys, I've watched thousands of smooth stone blocks being made over the last couple days. It's been pretty awesome, man. That Doom Smelter is doing pretty good for us right now. Still need to do a lot of work on that bad boy. But anyway, I am rambling, my friends. Let me get these roads down over here. Sleep the night away because the sun is going down over there, and we can come back together and start working on a little bit of a design for this gate over here. It's going to be a sweet day of Minecraft, guys. Hope you got a tasty beverage, crunchy snack. Sit back and enjoy. It's views like this that really bring a lot of joy to the heart of the ReNDoG, guys. Look how awesome this place is looking, man. I love this game so much. From nothing is slowly but surely rising a massive elven kingdom. And from up here, it just looks so epic. I get so inspired when I see this. And I get so happy in my heart knowing that I did this, man. I made this. There was just a giant flat area over here, and now we can literally see the birth of a city coming together. Isn't that awesome? Oh man, I'm never going to get tired of this game. I'm going to play this game until I'm an old freaking man, I think. Anyway, I've just finished laying down the foundations for the roads that are going to be running through our city over here. Just a line of smooth stone through the middle of all of the road layouts that we set up last time, just to give us more of a sort of tangible feel of what these roads are going to look like. And I want to spend a bit of time with you guys now working on, well, a block palette for these roads. I want to try and figure out exactly how these roads are going to look. And it's going to be a little bit tricky to work out because this is an elven society, right? This is an ancient elven city that we're working on. And what we've been trying to do here with the design of the buildings, especially on this side of things, is to make sure that this city looks really modern, so to speak. Everything is beautiful. Everything is perfect. Everything is symmetrical. These elves are master architects, right? Who probably hired master architectural dwarves or something to come and make them roads. And that means that these roads need to look the part. They need to look like they are very well kept, that they were very well designed. And I was playing around with a couple of blocks to use for these roads. At first I was going to use these stone bricks over here, but to me this doesn't really make sense, right? Roads aren't made out of bricks generally. They're usually made out of concrete or something like that. And I guess what I wanted to do originally was use some smooth concrete blocks to try and make these roads, but I don't know. I don't think that's going to look very good. Let's head over to the other side of the Mobilisa here. I think I've got some smooth concrete that we could experiment with over here. You see, we've got some white concrete here, and we've got some light gray concrete powder too. Let's just turn some light concrete powder into solid concrete, or light gray concrete anyway. We can just do it over here. Let's just make like a couple of blocks of this. So I kind of wanted to make the road out of this block over here, but I don't know. I don't think that's going to work out too good. I think it's just too flat. These roads are already ancient, right? They've been around here for hundreds of years, maybe thousands of years, and a road that is super old like that isn't going to be flat like this. It's going to have a lot of footfall on it, lots of wagons and lots of people and elves and stuff crossing it, right? So a road like this, to me, it's just a little bit too flat. I want to get some texture in it, and we can get that texture from the smooth stone block here. I think that this smooth stone block is the perfect block for the majority of the block palette for the road. So if we start off by just laying down a section of road here just out of smooth stone, let's have a look at what that looks like. That's obviously going to be too much smooth stone, right? So I'm thinking we get some block variation into the road just to try and break up the smooth stone texture a little bit, and maybe we can sort of figure out a nice road design together over here. Now, while I'm doing this, guys, I want to tell you a very quick story. While I've been laying down these roads over here, I had a memory from when I was about 13 years old. that I wanted to share with you because, well, when I was about 13 years old, I actually stumbled across some people making a road, much like we're making a road over here. And it was a very interesting moment, and only one that I've remembered now that I've been working on these roads. And as a lot of you guys who've been watching me for a very long time will know, I actually went to a boarding school when I was 13 years old in South Africa. Quite a traditional boarding school in the middle of nowhere, in the mountains of South Africa, basically, and in a very rural part of the country too. A part of the country that is mostly made up of subsistence farmers, mostly made up of small villages of people that live a subsistence-based lifestyle. You know, they grow their own crops, they have their own sort of cattle and their own sheep and all of that sort of thing, and they live basically completely independently, and they will either work on their own farms or they'll be working on farms around the area of South Africa that the school was in, and of course they would have electricity and running water and so on that the municipality would provide for them. But all in all, these villages would be very, very traditional villages, and my school was in the part of South Africa known as Zululand. And I don't know how many of you guys know about the history of the Zulus in South Africa, but some of you guys might know about King Shaka Zulu, who was the king of the Zulus last century, I believe, or it could have been a little bit earlier. My history is a little bit foggy. It's been a while since I read up on South African history, but this part of the country is known as Zululand, where traditionally the Zulus came from. And when I was at boarding school, on the weekends, I used to head off on little adventures, on little solo adventures. So my school, as I said, was sort of in the mountains of Zululand. And on Sundays, we were meant to leave our hostels where we would stay, and we would venture off into, most of the people would go to the playing fields and they would play football and stuff like that for the afternoon. But people like the ReNDoG, man, I didn't want to spend time on playing fields. I wanted to explore this amazing natural world that was around me, and I used to head off on adventures, and running very close to my school was a railway line, and I used to follow that railway line. I used to wake up really early in the morning, and we would have to go to church at about 7:30 in the morning on a Saturday and on a Sunday, and after that and after breakfast I would pack my backpack with some food and provisions and water and sandwiches that I would make in the mess hall at breakfast, and I would head off following that railway line, just walking, being by myself, really, just playing around in nature as kids do, finding insects and animals and weird things and pretending that an interesting stick I would find would be like a wizard's staff, or finding a piece of metal that looked like a sword and I'd pretend that was a sword and I'd hack away at small plants and stuff. I don't know. When you're 13, man, your imagination kicks in something fierce. And it was awesome. I had really, really great times. But, each weekend I would walk down this railway line and I would sort of walk. For the first time I did it, I maybe walked for half an hour. Then the next time I did it, I'd walk for 45 minutes. And eventually, I was walking really, really far. I was walking a good couple of hours up that railway line just to discover new stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wanted to find new things that I hadn't seen yet. So each weekend, my backpack would be a little bit more full of food and water because I knew that I'd be walking a little bit further for that particular Sunday, or that particular Saturday that I decided to go on this adventure. And on one of these adventures, I was following this railway line and I stumbled across a traditional Zulu village that was very close to the railway line. And in this village were living probably 2 or 3 families, I guess, and there must have been about 5 or 6 different houses that had been built there. And of course, these houses would have been built by the people that lived in the village, and the houses were a mixture of traditional Zulu buildings, which would generally be made out of wood and reed and that sort of thing, and also more modern designed houses that would have been made out of bricks and corrugated iron for the roofs and so on. So it was kind of like a sort of mix village, a traditional rural Zulu village, but also a modernized village that had some power line coming into it, so they had electricity and they had running water and so on. But I spotted this village from the top of a hill that I found. I was walking along this railway line, and next to the railway line was a forested hill, and I decided to walk to the top of that forest to see the view around me, right, to see like what was happening around this area, this new area that I had discovered. And when I got to the top of this hill, I saw this village all the way down at the bottom of the hill. There was a very small stream running next to the village, so I guess that's what they were using for their water supply. There were a few cows, there were a few sheep and some chickens and stuff, and the village had a kind of sort of main road running through it, and then the houses were sort of scattered around the main road in a sort of circular fashion. And the Zulus, when they created villages, they would create sort of rounded shaped villages, I guess, or they do create. I mean, I'm talking like the past tense, like it doesn't happen, but I believe the traditional word for a Zulu village is a kraal. And this was a sort of kraal-shaped village. It was round with a central road running through it. And the first time I saw it, I was very nervous about this village because, of course, these were strangers to me. I'd never met them before, and I was kind of scared. You know, this little kid, like, stumbling across this village. I think I probably had a stick or something that I had the staff of the ReNDoG, the magical staff of the ReNDoG with me. But, of course, you know, I didn't think that I'd be able to protect myself if this village decided to attack me or something. I was in full imagination mode, I suppose. So I sat on top of that hill and I watched the village for a while, just watching what was going on down at this village. And what was happening was very, very interesting. I could see that this village was quite close to the railway line, and it was also quite close to a road that intersected the railway line. It was probably about half a kilometer or so from the village to the railway line and to this road. And what the men of the village were doing was building a road from the village to the crossroad that was meeting up with the railway line. And I guess what they were trying to do here is starting to create a road that would be that they could use for commerce. Maybe they could start sending some of their animal products and so on into a town nearby that they could sell, or you know, some of the beadwork they were doing, or some of the traditional work that they were doing, they could start you know, generating some revenue from that. And for that, of course, they would need a road. And what they were doing was creating a traditional road in, I suppose, what must have been a very traditional way to create roads. Essentially, there were a couple of men, some very strong young men, that were digging up the earth of the road, right? So basically, they had shovels and tools and stuff, and they were digging up the soil of the road like this. And then men behind them were using really large logs to compress that section of road. So they were lifting the log and stomping it, and lifting it and stomping it over and over again in unison. It was absolutely amazing to watch. And slowly but surely, this road was being created by this village. And I watched this road being built for a couple of hours on that particular day, the first time that I'd seen this village. And the next weekend, I couldn't wait to go on my adventure, to go and see the progress of this road. And I set off early in the morning. It took me a couple of hours to get back to the top of that little hill. And I looked down on the village. And of course, the progress of that road was absolutely amazing. They'd probably gone more than halfway. And the road looked like a proper road, like a proper, you know, sort of, I don't know, like farm road, I suppose, that would be able to manage vehicles and carts and so on. And I was absolutely amazed by this. I couldn't believe the progress that they had made. They didn't have any, you know, modern day tools like tractors and rollers and all of that stuff. They were doing this like with their bare hands, you know, compressing this road with logs and stuff. It was absolutely amazing. Anyway, I was chilling up on that mountaintop just watching, when suddenly out of the forest behind me, a child from the village came running up to me and grabbed me on the shoulder. And I remember being absolutely terrified. I couldn't, you know, I was so nervous. I was like, oh my goodness, I've been caught, you know, almost as if I'd been spying or something. I felt like I'd been spying on this village, and I shouldn't have been doing that. You know, I felt really bad. But this was a little kid who was probably about 7 years old, one of the cutest kids that I've ever seen, absolutely barefoot, just in a t-shirt and some shorts. And he had probably learned a little bit of English at school, because he said to me, he grabbed me on the shoulder and he said, come with me, come with me. And with a huge smile on his face and beautiful, huge eyes. And I couldn't resist. I had to go with him, man. I had to go with him. And I followed him down to the village. And in the village, I met the elder of the village, who was a pretty old guy. He must have been about, I don't know, 80 or so. And he basically welcomed me into the village. And he said to me, he could speak a little bit of English. And he said to me, you know, one of my children or one of my grandchildren saw you on top of the mountain. We saw you last weekend also. Why don't you come and help us make the road? And I thought that was an absolutely amazing thing to be offered. At the time, I didn't actually realize the significance of that moment until I got a lot older, I suppose, or until this very moment that I'm telling you guys this story. Because, of course, at that time, South Africa was going through a very transitional period. We had just sort of come out to the end of apartheid, which was a very hard time for my country, a time of great division, a time of great segregation in the country. And for those of you guys who know a little bit about the history of South Africa, you'll probably know that that was quite a significant thing for the elder of that Zulu village to do, to welcome this little white kid into his village and to actually ask him to become a part of the process of helping with the road. And for the rest of that afternoon, I was helping those young men building the road. I was sort of bringing a wheelbarrow of material. I think it must have been a mixture of cow dung and ash and concrete powder. I don't know what it was exactly, but I was helping sort of create this stuff that they were using to mix into the road. They would dig up the road and then they would add this sort of stuff into it, and then the young men behind them would compress it with these logs. And I remember just feeling so proud and so happy about helping this village do this. It was so awesome. It was such an amazing experience for me. On my adventures, I always wanted those sort of things to happen, but most of the time I would just end up hanging out in nature, playing with bugs and insects and stuff. But this time I actually got involved in this really cool project that this village sort of invited me to be a part of. Anyway, I did that for a couple of weekends after that. I can't remember exactly how many, but probably 3 or 4 weekends, I suppose. I'd go back to the village and just hang out there, play with the children, and just hang out and eat some traditional food that they would have for me there. And they would offer me food and bread and stews that they would make. Oh man, it was so awesome. And I remember the day, the very day that the village had completed the road. It was like this huge celebration that the road had now been completed. And there was one of the guys in the village had a car, or we call it a bucky, which is basically a big truck. For those of you guys who are in America, it's like a truck that has like a section at the back of it that you can put stuff in, and it's got just 2 seats in the front and no seats at the back, but just a huge sort of thing at the back that you can carry stuff. I don't know what the terminology is. You guys know what I'm saying over here, man. And this truck was parked at the railway line, and it was kind of like an event for the village, and all of the villagers came out, and we were sat there on the side of the road waiting for the truck to drive for the very first time over the completed road. And I will never forget the pride in the face of the village elder when that truck started its engine and drove from the railway line into the center of the village. And it almost brings tears to my eyes now, thinking back to the memory, remembering how all the villagers cheered and clapped, and the kids were jumping up and down. Everybody was laughing. Everybody was so happy because, of course, this was a new era for this village. This was going to bring a whole new sort of modernization, I suppose, to the village, and open up the village to cars being able to come into the village and trade with them, and potentially for the village, I suppose, it was a moment for them that they would be able to start exporting the stuff that they were making. And obviously in the eyes of that elder, he knew that this was a huge moment for the village. And I'll never forget that day. It was absolutely amazing. And at the time I was so young, I didn't really understand the significance of what had happened. But now that I think back to it, it was a very special moment for I suppose culturally, for South Africa at that time, and a story that I will definitely be telling my South African friends when I see them and when I go back to South Africa. It's certainly a story that I will be telling them. And, at the same time, although it is a story of happiness, it also kind of makes me a little bit sad, because I remember that most of the people in that village were not able to speak English. In fact, they spoke Zulu, their traditional language, and they didn't speak English. And at the time, I remember feeling like kind of sad that they didn't speak English. And I used to think to myself, well, why don't they speak English? I mean, come on, they've got to speak English. But of course, what I should have been asking myself is, why don't I speak Zulu? I was the minority in the country of South Africa. The white people that live in South Africa are the minority, and English is the minority language, and Zulu is in fact one of the majority languages, one of the most spoken languages in the country. So it makes me a little bit sad that I couldn't speak their language. Now that I think about it, that I couldn't actually speak one of the primary languages of the country that I was born in. But of course, that is a product of that time, a product of apartheid, a product of the history of my country, and there's nothing much that I can do about it now. But of course, I hope, and I'm glitching out in a block over here, I hope that, in South Africa now, and for those of you guys who are in South Africa who are still watching, or who watch my videos, I know there's a lot of you out there from South Africa who watch my videos. I hope that, things are changing there, and that integration is happening a lot quicker than it did when I was a young person in South Africa. Anyway, a bit of an interesting story that I wanted to tell you guys over there, guys. And yeah, I'm sort of working on adding a bit of block variation here into the road. What do you guys think about this? I think andesite is probably the best block to use here because it kind of shares the same pixel palette as the smooth stone, but it's not as rough as, say, this gravel over here. I don't really like the gravel in the road, but I do like the andesite. So maybe what we want to do is just have a couple of these cracked bricks very close to maybe the pavement over here, and then for the accent blocks, maybe we just stick with andesite here, right? And maybe we can just add some cracked bricks close to the pavement, as I was saying, almost as if it's been repaired, or a section of the road has been repaired with bricks at some point in the past, in the history of this road, right? And that's probably way too many over there. So maybe we just sort of mix it up, get quite a lot of andesite in here. And I wanted to use this light gray concrete powder, but I don't think it works very well. I think it's too light of a color. I think the color of that block is far too light. But if we just get a little bit more andesite in here, I think that's going to work out pretty freaking sweet, man. Let's get a little bit more in here, and let's have a look at what that looks like if we run up and down it. Yeah, I don't like the gravel, right? Let's get rid of the gravel completely and try and keep the road as clean as possible. This is way too much cracked stone over here. Let's maybe replace that with andesite instead. But yeah, that looks pretty good, right? That kind of looks like a fairly well-kept elven road, I suppose. I want to get rid of all of this gravel, though, I think, and probably get rid of a lot of this too. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about the road. And South Africans out there, I'd love to hear your thoughts on my story. Dang it, Cyberdogs, why do I always do this to myself? I get so annoyed when I tell you guys I'm going to do one thing at the start of an episode, and then I end up doing something completely different. Oh man, I told you guys we were going to work on the gate entrance into the Elven Kingdom, but I've just been super inspired by these roads. I'm having lots of fun with them, and I don't think we're going to have time to get to the gate today. So once again, I have to say, guys, we're not going to complete what we said we were going to do. Instead, we're going to do something different. But that's okay. That's okay. Check it out, guys. I've been experimenting with the slab over here, right? And the reason that I suddenly found the slab is, well, firstly, it's one of the primary blocks in the build of the Mobilisa over there. And secondly, it's kind of needed here so that we can run up and down these roads without being hindered, right? We kind of needed a staircase over here. And of course, this slab is a very sort of modern block, I suppose. It's the kind of block that you would expect to find in a kingdom like this one, right? And I'm experimenting with a little design over here where the slabs are going to go around a central slab bit over here, and I was thinking that maybe this could be like the manhole that would go down into the sewers of this Elven Kingdom. And actually maybe we could get even more fancy over here, and instead of that little central piece being a slab, maybe we could make that a little bit of chiseled brick, right? Let's have a look. Do we have enough to make a little bit of chiseled brick? Yeah, we got some of the stone slab action and then some chiseled brick action. Let's make 2 of those bad boys. Yeah, so maybe this is going to work out quite nicely for the roads. I wasn't really happy with the sort of broken up road section like this. I think it's just a little bit too plain for my taste. And I wanted to get something a little bit more interesting in here. So let's have a look at this. Let's get that in the center. Yeah, it kind of works, I guess. Grats! Tango just completed a pretty awesome achievement over there, man. Speaking of achievements, we haven't achieved one today, which is a little bit upsetting, but that's okay. Anyway, I kind of like like this. I think this is working out pretty good. And I've actually done it completely wrong over here. I want these sections to be 3 wide. So let's get a slab in here and then fill in these blocks like this. I was also thinking about maybe laying down some slabs along the edge here. So maybe if we get rid of all of these blocks, we have a solid line of slabs that are going to be running along the side of the road. Although, now that I think about it, I think, is it weird that the slabs are a part of the road? I don't know. Let's see what it looks like. Let's lay down some slabs over here. Yeah, you know, that actually looks pretty cool. This is kind of like the pavement, right? And this is like the gutter, so to speak. Maybe we want to get rid of these stairs completely and try figure something out, like something different here. Maybe what we want to do actually is turn the stairs around in this position. Hold on. Let's just try this one more time. Get rid of all of these stairs over here. Maybe instead of it being such a huge gutter, why don't we make it like a little bit of a smaller one, right? What happens if it's just like that? That actually works pretty good, I think. I think I prefer that to the sort of big double space gutter that I've made over here. Yeah, that actually looks pretty cool, man. I'm kind of digging that, man. Are you guys picking up what I'm putting down over here? So yeah, that looks kind of sweet. I think I'm going to complete a couple of sections of these guys, and then we'll come back one last time together to have a look at what they look like. And yeah, I think I'm onto something. That's looking a lot better, if you ask me, Cyberdogs. I wasn't really feeling that zigzagging jazz, you know? It was feeling a little bit asymmetrical to me. And the more that I think about this Elven Kingdom, the more that I think that symmetry is going to be a really important thing for us to achieve the design plan of making a super modern Elven society that are master architects, right? We want to try keep things as straight and symmetrical as possible. And so I've just sort of straightened up these slab sections in the center of the road here, and they go all the way to the cross section where the main roads meet with the side roads. And here's where we're going to have that manhole that'll take us down into the sewers. And I really like the simplicity of this, right? I like how it gets cut off here just before it meets up with the crossroad. And it's just a lot easier to do it this way to achieve symmetry, because these segments of road are all a little bit different in length, right? So if we have a pattern in them, it's going to be really hard to maintain the symmetry of that pattern. And I like this, man. I think this is really sweet. I love the smaller canal also on the side of the roads. I think that works out really, really good. And I love the little splash of andesite here. And I'm even loving the slabs on the side here. And if you can imagine this entire road sort of finished off in that style, I think it's going to look frickin' magical, baby. It's going to look absolutely beautiful. Unfortunately, though, I've had a look at my watch. I've run out of time. I want to get this video rendered and out to you guys before the end of tonight. So I need to go do some editing. And I guess on stream, I shall work a little bit more on these roads. So next time we are together, these roads should be pretty close to complete for the main city here of the Elven Kingdom. And of course, I think we'll probably do a little bit of a different road design in the old section of the city. But we got lots of stuff to do here at the Mobile Lisa. Gonna be an awesome couple of weeks of Minecraft, guys. Hope you're gonna join me for it. Thank you so much for watching this episode. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button, or this arrow goes directly into your butt. Just like so. And it's also flaming. So, you know, you better freaking do your business. Okay? And only if you enjoyed the video, of course. I'm not trying to force you to hit the like button here. Anyway, if you haven't subscribed yet, you know what to do. Hit the freaking subscribe button also. And this is ReNDoG signing out from the Hermitcraft server. We'll smell you all in the next episode.